And so when we talk about interactions with the dead, and we talk about what we're seeing in our dreams, and we talk about what we're perceiving of those that have passed away, at the end of the day, it's very important for us to recognize that the dead cannot benefit us. The dead have moved on to the next layer of their existence, and they cannot benefit us in any way. And so whatever connections we are having with them or feeling in terms of perception, all of that is to connect us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even, for example, what reaches them of our news, and we're going to go into great detail in this series about what reaches them of our news. At the end of the day, even if they express wishes for us to be in a good state or want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us before we die or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can guide, only Allah who can benefit, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who at the end of the day is going to see us through every single phase of our existence. And so if you long to reunite with some of your relatives that have passed away, and certainly we do, if you long to reunite with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at the end of the day, the greatest longing that you should have is to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to hope that you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while He is pleased with you. And so keep that in perspective, inshallah ta'ala, as we're going through the different layers. Now, as far as sources that were used, the primary source of this series was actually a book, Kitab al-Ruh by Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, the book of the soul by Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah talks about the soul and how it interacts with other souls and how it passes through these various layers of existence in a beautiful and profound way. And he often focuses on dreams of what is happening in that next phase of existence so that we can gain more perspective on this phase while at the same time being guided by prophetic instruction all along. So this is a book, subhanAllah, that really changed much of how I started to look at literature as it relates to the Barzakh in particular. And it's truly a beautiful book by Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. And of course, he is a blessed author who has written so much about how we can connect to the journey of the hereafter as a whole. After Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, Kitab al-Ruh, the second book that I consulted most was by Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the most underrated writers in Islamic history. Imam ibn Rajab rahimahullah wrote a book called Ahwal al-Qubur wa Ahwal ahliha ila nushur. So it's the state of the graves, the people of the graves as they make their way to the journey of resurrection. So Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala writes beautifully about these different stages as it relates to the people of the graves. And Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah ta'ala has this famous work, At-Tadhkira. There is a book by Imam Abi Dunya rahimahullah ta'ala, Man Asha Ba'd al-Maut, whoever lives after death. Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala wrote a book called The Disturber of the Hearts. So it was meant to wake people up as they become complacent with their current situation. Because at the end of the day, none of this is just to entertain any type of fantasy or imagination.